Hello everyone, this is Take from Bigheadtaco.com. I'm here again in Central. Now, my last video on the X100T, how to set up for shoot photography, was sort of back there. Camera go, if you pan, we were just kind of over in that bench area and then down a bit. But if camera girl were to do her full pan left and right, this is called Pottinger Street. I think I remember Kai and Locke doing a video here, but it's a weird, I don't think Google Maps even comes here because a vehicle can't come through this area. I find a lot of photographers, last week we saw some high school or university grads taking portraits here. There's these funny rails with like dolls on it. I don't really understand. Camera girl, let's just follow me here for a second. There's like these little doll thingies. Maybe I shouldn't even touched it. But anyways, this is kind of a cool place. If even camera girl looks down on the ground, it's kind of a cobblestoney, it's not even steps. It goes all the way down to the bottom of the main street here in Central. But I thought what I would do here is do a quick review of the Leica T. Now I've had this for almost 3 weeks while I've been in Hong Kong. And I would mention why one would use something like this over even something like a Ricoh GR or a Fuji X100 series type camera. A lot of it has to do with the zoom. I find a lot of people use zooms incorrectly. They use it as a quick way to crop an image, and that's not really the proper way of using it. I was in Admiralty, where the largest part of the protest camp was, and I think even Kai did a video there with the X100T. It allows for compression, and especially when things are at a distance where the fixed lens, especially if it's a 28 or 35 mil, you just can't get close enough. A zoom is just the right amount of compression. Now this is a 18 to 56 and the APS-C size format, so it's about a 28 to, oh man, I should have done my math, 28 to, you add 1.5 to 56, so that's 25. So 28 to 80 kind of a lens. So at 80, I know people like 80 to 200s. To me, that's way too much compression. It feels a lot like more like a wildlife type or sports photography lens. For travel, this is just the right size. And this lens, I've mentioned it before in my other videos, optically it's very similar to the X Vario. And last year when I was in Tokyo, I had my X Vario project, my Tokyo X Vario, and this takes awesome pictures. And I know even Steve Huff on his video, he mentioned all the weaknesses to the X Vario, which I agree with him as well. But the images, you couldn't argue with it. And same with this Leica T. It uses the same sensor, very similar processor, if not the same processor. Optically, the lens is a little bit different. I actually like the lens on the X Vario. This one is a telescoping lens, and the X Vario didn't. It's all internal zooming, so I actually like that. I didn't like the f3.5 to 6.4, which isn't a very bright lens. This is a 3.5 to 5.6, I think. 3.5 to 5.6, 1856, spherical, very sharp lens, sharp, even wide open f3.5. So I like this lens. There has been a lot of controversy about this camera because people think it's more form than function, and partially people are right and partially people are wrong. This definitely has form. It's a beautiful camera. I love just walking around with it. To me, I compare it to dress shoes to runners. Runners are very functional, but they're not sexy, and they're not, I wouldn't say they're not cool, but there's something about nice leather shoes. Now they're not the most comfortable shoes to wear or the most functional. You can't sprint in dress shoes without hurting yourself, but you know, there's something about wearing a nice pair of leather dress shoes. The same with this Leica. Photography isn't just about functionality. It's also a little bit, we're gonna shift a bit here. It's also about how it makes you feel, and I would say the Leica T is definitely a great camera. It makes you feel good carrying it. The build quality is nice. I love these this weird little hinge thing where you can push the button in and pop these straps out. This weird Cyclops EVF is pretty cool. The biggest weakness to this though is this functionality, and I think what Leica could do with it more than anything is firmware updates. And we know even with the Fuji X100, there are a lot of complaints about it. And I think up to this point, there's been maybe 4 or 5 upgrades to the X100 from the original firmware to now. And now the Fuji X100 is an awesome camera, and the S and now the T. So same with this. The early adopters, we all know sort of its weaknesses. You can see when you turn it off, and then as soon as you turn it on, there's that bit of a pause. And then when you go to EVF, there's another bit of a pause. And so it's a little slow. And I've used the internal memory versus using an external card. And you know, it still seems to write a bit. So mind you, I'm using a DNG raw file as well as the full superfine JPEG. So I can see why it's a little slow. But if Leica does a few things, and here are some of the things we could talk about. They can speed up how the OS works. Another thing is, I wish, see, you can actually put your thumb here. So if they could create a virtual button here, so shift this, there's a lot of space between these buttons, so shift these button downs, create a virtual button, and that virtual button, you can make that anything you want. Now what I would personally want to use it is for auto exposure, auto focus lock button, and have it right there. You can access it with your thumb, and then shift everything else down. So I think that would be one good thing. Another thing is they did include, there has been, I think, 2 firmware updates on this, and that's great. Leica's on the ball with firmware updates, and hopefully they're listening to what people are asking for. Another thing that people have been asking about is the, I don't like when any camera does this. I don't like it when the camera auto reviews. I don't want a chimp, which means you take your picture and then you quickly look. The duration of auto review is off, but here I'll show you. I'm not sure if you can really see that, but you take a picture, okay? There's still an auto review, and I don't understand. If it says auto review off, it means it's completely off. Now I think I read somewhere where there's a reason why. It might be because I'm doing DNG and superfine JPEG, but that should be completely off. So that's one thing that Leica, not one thing, that's the second thing that Leica can work on. Well, actually that's the third. So speed, a customized button, and then actually have auto review completely turned off. And another thing is the setup of this is actually really good. I like, it's very intuitive, the 2 dials here. So I think a lot of us will shoot in aperture priority mode. So hitting your thumb on A mode, so you're in aperture priority mode, and then you can immediately, the outer dial is the aperture and the inner dial is exposure compensation. And you can adjust that inner dial to whatever you want. So for me, I have the inner dial set to exposure compensation, but you can change that to either ISO, white balance, focus mode, self-timer, or flash mode. So those are really cool modes that you can add to that inner dial. And all the other modes, manual, shutter priority, it's set up intuitively, but you can adjust that. So that's a really good thing. JPEGs, I never really liked Leica's JPEGs, but the reason why I've been doing JPEG, Superfine, and DNG is because there's a film mode called Natural, and it actually seems to desaturate all the colors except for red, which I kind of like doing that. But you can still alter the JPEG. And what I've done is I increase the sharpness and increase the saturation in natural mode, and I'll be posting these pictures on my blog, and you take a look for yourself. I'll do the DNG and do a basic adjustment in Photoshop, and then show you what the natural film mode looks like. But it kind of reminds me a little bit of it's a mixture of classic chrome and a little bit of the Canon color isolation mode. So I think it's actually pretty cool. It looks good. So I've been having fun shooting this. There's been things I've been doing with this camera that I just couldn't do with the X100T, which is sort of that zooming in where you just don't have the space. Hong Kong is a very compressed and compact city, but for street photography, is this better than the X100T? No, X100T is definitely much better for street photography, but if you're doing street photography as well as travel photography without having extreme lenses, then this is actually a very good camera to use. I know an M shooter that took the recent Leica Academy course that I was a guest speaker and instructor at, and he took it on a trip to Eastern Europe, and he actually now sold his M240 and he's exclusively shooting with his Leica T. That's how much he likes it. And he had mentioned that for that type of travel photography where you need some street and some sort of a zooming capability but nothing extreme, and you still want to be light and compact, this actually is a good camera. So overall, I think this is a I wouldn't call it a what's the term now? I keep on forgetting it, but an early adopter. It is an early adopter type camera, but I don't think you'll be screwed by Leica as long as they maintain firmware updates. They speed up everything. Speed up the sleep time, speed up the write time, speed up the a lot of the issues with this camera, and I think it's a great one. I think almost getting this EVF is necessity for a camera like this. It's really important. The build quality again is really nice, but I do feel that this camera has a lot of potential, and I mentioned this on my blog. If you can see, you don't have to get in that close, camera girl, but I compared this mount to the Leica M mount. This is actually bigger than the Leica M mount. So my guess is that Leica has made enough room there, just like Sony with their NEX, their E mount. I think they can put a full frame sensor in this camera. So who knows what the future is for this. Imagine being able to put full frame Leica M mount lenses onto the Leica T. So I think Leica is serious about a camera like this. It takes great pictures. It is the first gen Leica firmware updates. Keep them up. That's wonderful. I'll post the pictures on the blog. You see how awesome pictures I've been able to take with a camera like this. Yeah, don't hesitate to buy it. I think at one point you couldn't find this camera. One of the things you can't find is that 23mm f2 lens. I was trying to get that from Leica, they just couldn't get it to me, so I'm happy with the zoom. But with this even more compact, I think this is a great camera for travel photography. Actually, one last thing, I know camera girl, you give me the countdown timer, is if you're in manual focus mode, there is a, if you go into info mode here, they do give you focus distance, but it jumps from 0.3 to 1 meter about 60% of the way, and then from 2 to infinity is like a centimeter. If Leica could change this, more like the Fuji, give more of 1 meter, meter and a half, 2 meter, 3 meter, 5 meter, maybe 5 meters to infinity. That would be a more reasonable focus distance. Now let's just see if it even changes when you zoom in, and let's just see this. Yeah, see, it's still like that. So again, so what is that, 0.4 for firmware? Change the distance meter. So I think a lot of people, if you're going to use this for street, like the X Vario, it had a distance on the lens. This one, fine, don't put it on the lens, but put it on screen so that people can zone or scale focus. So that's my quick review of the Leica T in Hong Kong, coming from Pottinger Street. Camera girl, maybe we can, as we sort of slowly pan through here and show this area. I really think this area is cool. I could hang out here and take more pictures of you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take a picture of you here. There we go. I'll post this on my on my review. But thank you for watching, everyone, and I should have one more video here in Hong Kong before I go back to Canada. So thank you for watching, and goodbye. Click, click.